Hey, welcome to Church Online. If it is your first time here, why not scan the QR code? We'd love to just chat, connect with you, and see how you enjoy the service. As you know, we currently have 2 morning services that are happening, the 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. this weekend. However, though, from next weekend, the 15th of January, we have the 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 5 p.m. service back to normal. So come out, invite somebody, and it's going to be epic. Join us for in-person church, the best type of church. Other than that, enjoy the service.
Father, I'm so thankful for every single person in this room or those that are watching online. We're thankful for the work that you're doing in us and through us. Thank you that you're a good God, a God that gives us rest, a God that works on us, and a God that does not rest but continues to work in and through our lives. I pray that you do something incredible in us today, that the message will drop from our heads to our hearts and our hearts to our hands, that we'll live out, that we'll be changed and different, more equipped to take on life's challenges. And we pray this all in Jesus' name. Everybody said, awesome. So perhaps you've noticed this phenomenon of people constantly checking their watches and checking their phones. You know, there's people that it gets even stranger, where people will take a few steps and they'll check their watch again. And they'll walk a bit and they check their watch again. Like, what are they doing? Or they'll walk and they'll check their phone. Then they'll walk again and check. And then it gets even weirder. Some people, as they start walking, they start going like this. And they start walking around like this. And you wonder, what are they doing? What on earth? Or they'll take their phone and they'll just be like, and you're wondering, are they playing a game or what are they doing? But you know, what's interesting is that they're trying to get 10,000 steps. They're trying to get 10,000 steps. And that's, by the way, how you cheat 10,000 steps. So we see you. I'm not looking at anybody at the moment. But, you know, there's this global phenomenon of people wanting to reach this 10,000 steps. So where does this come from? Well, in 2017, there was a global study done by Stanford University, and they found that the global average is 5,000 steps per person per day. So if you're under 5,000, we're not judging you, but that's the global average, right? But there were so many studies that were done that found that there's so many health benefits to actually walking 10,000 steps. That you'll actually have a longer life. There's so many benefits to these 10,000 steps. So that's why I even find myself looking at my watch or looking at my phone, how many steps? Probably if we had to go to anyone in this room and we ask them how many steps are they currently on, they could probably tell you how many they're on. Some people might add 2,000 steps extra, but it's okay. We don't judge. I find myself, just before I go to bed at night, I check, all right, how many steps have I done? And I see 8,800 or 9,800. And I'm like, yes, so close. And then I'll just walk around the house a little bit, go around the dining room table a few times. But as long as I can get my 10,000 steps, because that's what we want. That's the goal, right? And I keep saying to myself, you know, I just need a few more steps, just one more step. But steps in every sense really matter. So steps in terms of our lives really matter. We need to take steps. What do they do for us? They move us forward and they take us places. Whether it's the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year, we need to continue taking steps. If we want to move forward, if we want to go somewhere, and if we want to let God take us somewhere, we need to continue taking steps. And there's one thing that every one of us need to do, and it's quite simply the title of the message today as well, is that we all need to take one more step. We all have one more step. But what about after that one more step? Oh, yeah. You've got one more step. What if I take 10,000 steps? You've still got one more step. What if I've been following Jesus for 80 years of my life? Guess what? You've still got one more step. What if I haven't chosen to follow Jesus yet? Well, you've got one more step. Every one of us have one more step to take. It really matters. And this applies to every part of our life. So today I just want to unpack what steps we all need to take. And really the heart of it is this, that God sees our entire journey. He sees us from the beginning to the center to the end. He knows where we'll end up. He knows where we've started. He sees that journey. We don't necessarily see that because our focus is just to take one more step. So if we can remember that I don't need to see my whole journey. I just need to know that I've got one more step to take. I just need to know that I need to take one more step. We see this in Psalm 37 verse 23, that the Lord directs the steps of the godly. Isn't that incredible that He doesn't take the steps for you? Sometimes we're like, oh, God, just take this away from me. Take this person out of my life. No, you married them. I can't do that. The Lord directs your steps, which means we need to be taking steps. We need to be moving forward. In order for someone to direct us, we need to be taking a step. We need to be doing something about it. We can't say, God, just move me. No, You need to take a step and allow God to direct those steps. I love that he says he delights in every detail of their lives. This speaks of a personal, intimate God that recognizes you, that knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, knows your flaws. He knows what you're thinking. Even now, for the people that are thinking about lunch and their in-laws, God knows. God knows. He delights in every detail. Verse 24, though they stumble, they will never fall. Isn't that incredible? What a good Father that even though we'll stumble and we'll get hurt, we get back up again. He'll never let us fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. And I just see that as this picture of a father holding a child as they walk on a barrier or as they walk on their next steps. God's guiding every single one of us, but we need to make sure that we are taking one more step. He directs us. And as long as we trust Him, we can remain unshakable. I love this vision for every one of us that we can remain unshakable. What does that look like? Recently, I was in Cape Town for a wedding. And the interesting thing is that the trees in Cape Town are very different to the trees in Joburg. I don't know if you know this. The accent is different. The way they stand is different. The way they act is different. Trees in Joburg are busy. They're on fire. They stand up straight. They know what's going on. They're all business. They lose their leaves when they need to. They get their leaves when they need to. The trees in Joburg know what's going on. But trees in Cape Town, they're just so laid back. If they could talk, they'd be like, "What's up, man?" They're just too laid back. Particularly if you go to the trees that are right by the coast. They're all like this. It's like, come on, man. You know? And it was so interesting as walking on the coast and you see all these trees are like this. I'm like, yes, typical Cape Townians, eh? Just lazing on the job. But what's fascinating for me is that these trees are still living. These trees are still growing. These trees that it doesn't matter the wind, it doesn't matter the rain, it doesn't matter the hail, it doesn't matter the sea salt, it doesn't matter what happens to them, they're still growing, they're still going, they're still living. Why? Because they're rooted. That's the picture of unshakable. And maybe you had a year where you felt like all the wind blew at you this year. You feel like all the rain, all the hell, everything that possibly could happen to a person happened to you. As long as you're still rooted, then you're still unshakable. That's unshakable. Because for every one of us, an unshakable life is one lived with complete assurance that God is in control and ultimately wants what is best for every one of us. And you know this last part, that God wants what's best for me. This has been something I've been holding on to, personally, because I trust that God does want what's best for me. And sometimes it's difficult to see that because you want to see the whole journey. But God says, no. You got a step to take. That's your focus. I worry about the rest. You just take one more step, one more step, one more step. God sees the journey. And for me personally, a journey that I've been on is really becoming more compassionate. I don't see myself as a very compassionate person, and this is something I'm working on. So God really tests you in those areas. So a few weeks ago, Lauren and I found out that Lauren's pregnant. So I think that's now I have to learn. Now I have to learn compassion because I feel fine. Genuinely, I don't get sick. I'm not tired. I've picked up a few Ks, but other than that, I feel fine. But it's like God's testing me. I need to be compassionate. I need to be compassionate for my wife, compassionate for other parents. And then people start telling you what things cost, and you're like, wow. Compassion, right? But there's really a word that stuck out for me this year, and that word is benevolence. That God is a benevolent God. What does that mean? Benevolence is a disposition of doing good and being good. That God cannot not be good. He's a benevolent God because He does good and is good. He's kind, He's good. And I think that kindness and that goodness really, really hits home for me because I trust that I serve a benevolent God because I know that He ultimately wants what's best for me. So even if we can't see there's light, even if there's challenges in your life, trust that God's benevolent. He is good and He does good. That's the God we serve. And that's why we can remain unshakable. Why? God sees the entire journey, but we just need to focus on one more step. And just as a precursor to speaking about the steps every one of us need to take, I think it's important we reflect on successes, but we also reflect on failures. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to fail, let's learn from that failure so we don't fail again, right? But this helps us to stay humble. It helps us to learn. It helps us to grow. And there's always this danger of having this I've arrived attitude. Maybe you walked into church this morning, you're like, all right, guys, I'm here. Let's start. We can start now. I've arrived. There's a danger to that, isn't there? And God has a funny way of really humbling us. I learned this in school. I was invited to honors evening, and I was very excited. Dressed up, got my blazer, everything was ready, had my tie, shoes were polished, everything was ready. And I think it was like a Wednesday afternoon. And then parents got home. They're like, all right, we're going to go. As we're heading out the door, my dad asked me, have you done your chores yet? I said, chores? It's honors evening. I don't need to do chores. And then to my dad's response, which was, just because you were invited or just because of your achievements, it doesn't take away that you still have responsibilities. So humbled very quickly, but it got worse. So then I was like, okay, fine, I'll just go do my chores. And, you don't understand how smart I am and smartest in this house. You weren't invited to honors evening hours. You just along for the ride and, went to the pool and everyone's judging me. You thought these things too. And went to the swimming pool, took the leaf catcher and started catching the leaves. I was like, yes, why does someone as smart as me have to catch leaves? And I'm busy cleaning. And then just as God would have it, I misstepped into the swimming pool. Shoes, blazer, tie, hair, everything. I think when I got out there, I looked like a cat that was bathed. It was the best thing for me because I was properly humbled that day. That just because of my achievements, just because of my success, doesn't mean I have no responsibilities anymore. So yes, it's important that we celebrate the wins, but it's important we don't have the attitude of I've arrived. There's 2 tests of every person's character. The first test is promotion, and the second is demotion. When we get promoted, our character is tested. Our heart is tested. So if you're promoted at work, does your behavior change? Does your character change? Does your heart change? Does the way you treat people change? That's a promotion test. And then demotion. If you criticize, perhaps you lose a job or perhaps you don't do as well as you used to. What does your character say about you? Because your character needs to sustain whether you're promoted or demoted. Your character needs to be consistent. That's why we work on our character and we allow God to work on the rest. Those are the 2 tests. Why? Because God sees the whole journey, but we just need to focus on one more step. So how much further do we still need to go? Just one more step. I see when parents help their kids to eat, there's a full plate, but they're like, just one more bite. After that bite, just one more bite. Come on, one more. Ooh, one more bite. See, I'm practicing. One more bite, one more bite. And the important thing is that we stop focusing on the entire staircase or the top of the staircase. When you're going upstairs, you need to look at this step and this step and this step. If I'm looking up at the top there, what's going to happen? We're going to fall up the stairs, which is a thing, I promise. And whatever we start, we need to be dedicated to finish. If you started climbing the stairs, let's finish strong. And when we finish strong, we can start strong. So the question is, how many unfinished projects do we have? Do we have a habit or reputation of starting things and not finishing them? How many businesses have we started and quit? Not failed, because fail we can learn from, but quit. How many relationships do we start and then quit when things get serious? How many apologies do we owe? How many thank yous should we give? And how many sorries should we give even before Christmas? These are all steps we need to take because God sees the whole journey, but we just need to focus on our next step. We look at scripture, we look at the Israelites who wandered in the desert for 40 years, and some people thought they might be lost. They weren't lost. God was preparing them. It was tests of their character, preparing them so that when they stepped into the promised land that God promised them, that they'd be ready, their character would be ready. And we see that they walked in these 40 years, and then as they stepped in the promised land, when God said, all right, Joshua, you can take them through now. Then there was another test of their character. There was another test, another challenge that they faced. And they had to walk around these walls of Jericho 7 times, and on the 7th day, 7 more times. And it was all in preparation of what's to come. And all they had to do was keep taking one more step. So look at this account, which really demonstrates God's faithfulness. We see this in Joshua 6. I'm going to read from verse 2. Everyone okay? Fantastic. Then the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. God had already given him the promise. So many times God gives us a promise ahead of the time. Hey, I promise you, I'm going to be there with you. This is the promise I'm giving you. But now you need to do the work. So what should they do? Verse 3, march around the city once with all the armed men, then do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carrying trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up everyone straight in. So this is what God was saying to Joshua. This is what's going to happen. This is what you need to do. And we see this number 7. Obviously, he mentioned it so many times. And in biblical numerology, we see the number 7 is divine perfection. It's a perfect number. And I wouldn't get too caught up in numbers, but we need to recognize that there is weight that carries, right? And he's saying that this is purpose. This is blessing. There's perfection in this. I've told you, this is the promise that I'm giving you. How many times does God give us a promise, or we feel that he gives us something, but we don't act on it? And that's the difference, because Joshua actually had that test of faith. And it doesn't make sense. If you tell me I must walk around a building a few times and it will fall down, what? And then I must blow trumpets as well. Come on, man. People are going to look at me funny. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't make sense, but you know it's from God, then we do it anyway. Love this quote by Nelson Mandela. He said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Oh, that can never be done. It's impossible. It's impossible. When this church started, when Pastor Trev and Pastor Nikki specifically started leading this church 10 years ago, there were so many things that they said, it's impossible, it's impossible, impossible. But yet, over and over again, God proves himself. It's done, it's done, it's done. It's never impossible. It's only impossible until it's done. So in verse 7, Joshua answers God's call and he says, "And he ordered the army advance, march around the city with an armed guard going ahead with the ark of the Lord." And in verse 14 to 16, he says, "So on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. Then on the seventh day, they got up at daybreak, marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day, they circled the city 7 times. And verse 16, the 7th time round, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given the city." Just as God said it would happen, that's exactly how it happened. So they walked around. And sometimes we can look at this, we can say, no, but that was 7 days, which means they didn't have Sabbath. Where was the rest? Where was the rest? But God gave them that word. God said to them, walk around 7 times. And sometimes we kind of twist this word rest. And yes, I'm so tired. I just need rest. I just need a rest. But sometimes we misconstrue that definition of rest. The first question we should ask ourselves when we feel tired or weary is, how's my spiritual life? Because the way God gives us rest is when we press into him. So that's the answer. If you're feeling tired, if you feel weary, go to God. Because God gives us the strength. He gives us the rest that we need. It's actually resting in God, not resting away from God. I just need a break from church. I need some rest. No, you don't get it. Church is your rest. Worshiping is your rest. Praying is your rest. Pressing into God is your rest. That's the difference. How's our spiritual life? We look at the walls, and there were actually an internal wall and an external wall. And the average height of these walls were about 5 to 10 meters. So these were high walls. Average thickness of the walls were about 2 meters. And, many scholars believe that these walls actually crumbled beneath themselves. They didn't fall over. They actually crumbled. And because there was such a slope and there was a ditch before they could go in, the crumbling of the walls actually created a ramp for them to go inside the city of Jericho. So the same thing that was blocking them, that was barricading them from getting the city, was the same thing that they walked over to get to the promise that God gave them. Isn't it incredible that God uses the things that seems like it's blocking us or stopping us as a way get into the promise that he's already given us? So when we see something as blocking us, that's the same thing God can use for us to go into that promise that he's given us. That's the ramp. I often wonder, what if the Israelites had stopped at 6 days? What if they stopped at the first day and like, oh, this is stupid, I'm not going to do this anymore? What if they had stopped? Where would they be today? Where would we be today? What would have happened if they didn't follow through with that? And I trust that when God gives us something, that we can step into that. And then in verse 20, when the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. And finally, in verse 27, so the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. Just a picture of God's faithfulness. And pragmatically, all they had to do was take one more step. And after that step, one more step, and one more step. And spiritually trust God that he would do the rest. Because nothing happened up until the last day. God sees the entire journey. We just need to focus on one more step. Hope this has been helpful so far. 7 steps I believe that we should all take, that we just take this example of the Israelites. These are 7 steps I think every single person should apply to their lives, or steps that we should take. The first one is the first step. So when we look at 7 steps, we need to take the first step. You can't see your last step if you haven't taken your first step. We need to take our first step. The Israelites had to start somewhere. They had to start at day one, step one. Start somewhere. Sometimes we have these big dreams and these beliefs and, God's going to do incredible things, but you haven't taken the first step. You haven't put yourself out there. You haven't said, all right, let me put on my shoes and let me take the first step. We need to start somewhere. This step can take us the longest and can hinder us the most. And after we take that first step, we're like, oh, this is how it works. Okay. It's like when you see, apparently, allegedly, when kids start walking, they take that first step and then they just never stop. And then you wish, I wish they didn't start walking so early. But it starts somewhere, right? Because if we don't start somewhere, we're never going to get to where we need to get to. And I'm guilty of this. For the longest time, I struggled with procrastination. And, I would take long to take that first step. Once I take the step, I'm fine. But it's just to get there. I dated Lauren for 7 years before I proposed. And eventually a friend had to hit me on the upside of my head and say, what are you doing? Wake up. Someone else is going to propose. And I said, all right. And then I asked her what ring she wanted. So I took a little bit longer. And then Pastor Trev said, the ring should cost 3 months of your salary. So I took a little bit longer. And I just delayed and delayed and delayed. Eventually, I was like, all right, I need to actually commit. I need to take that first step. Started saving, bought the ring, proposed, so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. So for some of us in the room, maybe you've been thinking about proposing. Start somewhere. Start putting money aside. Start planning. Start asking the right questions. For those that are dating, maybe start having conversations. What is the intention of your dating? Is it to get married? Well, then let's start taking the steps towards that. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time with each other. And actually, you're wasting someone else's time that could be married to that person. So stop wasting each other's time and take some steps. Stop procrastinating. Get married. For those that have been engaged for any length of time, what are you waiting for? Enough money? You'll never have it. So just get married. We'll sort you out now. Here's Pastor Andrew. He's got his marriage license to the back. We've got enough witnesses here. We'll make it happen. All right. Celebration. Take the next step. Apply for the job. Oh, I hate the job I'm in. Well, what are you doing about it? Either you improve the circumstance you're in or apply for another job. Take the first step. Take the first step. Start the business. Some of you are sitting on great business ideas, but you're just nervous to start. And I'm not saying just throw all your money and give everything into it. I'm saying start somewhere. Take the first step. Speak to people. Take the first step. Maybe for some people, been wondering if you should get involved in church or not. Just take the first step. Be like Chantal and serve in 10 different ministries and choose ushers, which is the best one. Just choose something. Get involved in Connect Group. But I don't like to talk to people. It's fine. You're a good listener. And if you don't like talking, then serve as a barista. It's fine. You just make good coffee. We happy, you happy. Win, win, win. Just start somewhere. Take the first step. Put yourself out there. It's interesting speaking to people who are quite lonely in church. And it's crazy how you can be in a church filled with people and still feel lonely. And many times we can look at them and we could be like, yes, people should just connect with their people. What if we take that step upon ourselves and we say, I need to take one more step. I need to put myself out there. Take the first step. Take the first step. And why do we wait for a certain time of the year to start something new, start a new habit? Oh, I'm just going to wait for January. I'll start on Monday. Monday's a terrible day to start anything. Why would you start things on a Monday? What's the best time to start? Now. So if you need new habits, if you want to start a new diet, January, don't wait for January, start now. Yeah, but Christmas lunch, start now. Start now. This is where we start. Stop trying to only start habits, putting conditions to everything. So the question for every one of us to answer, what do I need to start? What is my first step? I need to take the first step. The second thing we need to do, or the second step, is the reconciliation step. This is so important because this hinders us. And this is something you can carry for years and years and years. Something that's very hurtful is hearing families that have been fighting for years and generations, and kids are still fighting against each other because of something their great-grandmother did. Stop it. Stop it. Let's reconcile. Why did Jesus die on the cross for us? So that we could reconcile with him. It's actually going back to the original friendship that God had with Adam and Eve. Jesus died so that we could have that relationship one again. If Jesus can forgive me, broken me, imagine if I cannot forgive someone that's my family. Forgive. It's reconciliation. You will never regret forgiving someone, but you'll almost always regret not forgiving them. That's the power of reconciliation. The Israelites had been through this journey of 40 years. They'd just been freed from Egypt, but they needed to reconcile. They moved away from God, and then they went closer to Him. They moved away, and they went closer. It was this journey of reconciliation for them, because now they weren't slaves anymore, but with their freedom, they could choose to follow God in the way that they had been. It's reconciliation. And in the same way, I often wonder, why 7 times around Jericho? What was that journey like? What were they thinking about? What were they doing? Have you ever done something that's quite repetitive and you get lost in your own thoughts? Sometimes your thoughts scare you. So just be aware. I enjoy mowing the lawn because I really get lost in my own thoughts. And perhaps it's something about the grass that I'm mowing that goes up my nose. Or I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that you kind of get lost in your thoughts. When you clean the house, it's boring. But you think about things and you're like, wow, how did I even get there? Or, it's all these different things. I think it's so important that we catch ourselves in our thoughts and we be like, I need to reconcile some things. So I want to encourage every one of us. 3 questions we need to answer for this step. The first question, who do I need to forgive? Who's the person I need to forgive in my life? Is it a parent? Is it someone that was close to me? Someone that's hurt me? Who do I need to forgive? Listen, if we could just take one more step towards forgiveness, I promise you'll have freedom in your life. The second thing, who do I need to apologize to? Maybe I've hurt some people. Yeah, but what did they do to me? Well, then go back to the first step. Who do I need to forgive? And then who do I need to apologize to? And the third thing, who do I need to thank? There's so many people that live thankless lives. I appreciate my parents now more than ever because I realize how much they've sacrificed. I need to thank my parents every day, over and over and over again. I'm so thankful and grateful for the people in my life. The first people that invited me to church. I am now where I am because of God, but also because they had the bravery to invite me to church. I need to thank them for that. I need to thank my mentors and my school teachers that had a massive role in my life. Who do I need to thank? And can I encourage us to put a timeline to these things? Sometimes, I'll thank them one day. No. One day is too late. Thank them now. Thank them before Christmas. It's a daily step for some of us. Life's way too short to hold grudges. And then the third step we need to do is we need to take the uncomfortable step. We all have one more step, right? So maybe this is your step you need to take, an uncomfortable one. The Israelites weren't on these nice marked out terrain and pathways and they didn't have lights. It was nothing like that. It was terrain that was up and down and side to side. It was uncomfortable to walk on. It was hot. It's uncomfortable. But the uncomfortable step is the one we always avoid, but it's the one we need the most. We call it life-giving conversations. Maybe there's an uncomfortable conversation that you've been putting off. Can I encourage you today to take one more step? Have that uncomfortable conversation. Maybe that uncomfortable conversation is with your in-laws. What a great time to have that conversation now. No, it's the worst time. It's the best time. It's an uncomfortable but necessary conversation. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your kids for the parents. Maybe you need to call it what it is. Say it like it is. Have that uncomfortable conversation. Tell them about the birds and the bees. It's an uncomfortable conversation. But I promise you now, teenagers and kids younger and younger are being exposed to things that they shouldn't be, that they're too young to cope with. And the sooner you can frame that for them and have that conversation with them, as uncomfortable as it is so necessary for their life. Frame it for them before someone else does. If you aren't discipling your children, I promise you now, someone else is. Have the uncomfortable conversation. You owe it to yourself. Pastor Trev told us this many years ago. He told us clear is kind. The clearer you can be with someone, the kinder you are for that person. Be kind. Be clear with someone. Know where you stand with that person and where they stand with you. It's about those things. It's the elephant in the room. Everyone knows about it, but nobody's dealing with it. Uncomfortable conversations do we need to have. The fourth step, this is the big step. This is the one that stretches us. I'd also like to call this the faith step. The Israelites at certain times had to jump. They had to stretch. They were feeling tired and they were feeling weary, but they had this big step that they had to take. On the 7th day, they had to walk around 7 times. It was a big step for them to take, but they took it anyway. This is a big step. It's a faith step we need to take. And I find that particularly when it comes to finances and health, this is where we need to trust God. Let me say this. If everything you achieve is in your own strength, then why do you need faith? If everything you do is in your own strength, I've done it by myself, I did it because I could, then what would you need faith for? Faith is that last bit, that little bit of a stretch where God says, all right, I've brought you till here, but now you need to have faith for it. So sometimes we can see, but God hasn't given me what I need. Well, because that's why you need faith. He gets you to a certain point, but then you need faith. Before I joined full-time ministry, Lauren had sort of 5 things that she was trusting God for. And in 1 week, God gave her 3 of those things. And then she just felt God say to her, well, you need faith for the other 2. And that was the little bit of a stretch. So we took the decision, stepped into full-time ministry, and as God does, as the benevolence of God is, He's so good that He granted those 2 things anyway. It's that little bit of a stretch. We need to stretch, right? We just received Thanksgiving offering, and that's a stretch, a faith step for every one of us. So what do I need to do that will stretch my faith? Because that's how faith gets practice. The 5th step is the step you take alone. There's some steps that we need to take by ourselves without the help of anyone. The Israelites took some narrow paths alone where they had to go single file. It's a single step that I need to take ownership for some things. Because sometimes it's easy to say, yeah, but everyone is at fault. No. Some things is your fault. You made the decision. You must take ownership for that. I need to take ownership of my house. I need to take ownership of my household. I need to take ownership of where I work. I need to take ownership of my church. I need to take ownership. I love when you see, even in the auditorium, if there's something on the floor, that someone will bend down and pick it up. No, not someone else can do it. My church, my responsibility. I'll do it. It's saying I'm taking ownership. I'm not blaming anyone, but this is me. I'm going to take ownership of this. This is mine to take ownership of. The 6th step is the step that you take together. Some steps you need the support of friends and family. Israelites stepped together. They walked together. They marched together. They shouted together. They ate together. They slept together, but separately. But they slept together. They did things together. That's what the picture of the church looks like. That when someone falls, that there's another person to say, hey, I'm here with you. That's why we encourage you to join connect groups and serving teams. Because when you fall and when things seem down, that there's someone there to say, hey, I'm here for you. We're stepping together. We're walking together. When you go through traumatic experiences, that you're not doing it alone, that you're not trying to fix it alone, that we're stepping together. This is about stepping with purpose, right? And then finally, the last one is the last step. The last step. We started the first step, but we need to end at the last step. Sometimes we need to finish what we start. Actually, all the time, we should finish what we start. We shouldn't be known for having unfinished conversations or unfinished projects. Finish what you start. I've committed to this. I'm going to go for it. The Israelites followed through, and because of that, God delivered them. God gave them the promise. Let me tell you about the saga of the koi pond. This is a very sensitive topic to my mom, so don't bring it up to her. When we moved into our house, we had this koi pond. The only problem with the koi pond is that it had a crack in it. Every time you filled it up, the water would leak out. So we said, all right, we're going to get to it. So 1 year passed, 2 years passed, 3 years passed, and we just had this koi pond with a little bit of water and never did anything. And eventually we said, all right, we have to start with this project. We're gonna do something with this koi pond. So we fixed the crack. We put a new pump in. We made it look nice. We filled it with water. We had koi inside there. Everything was perfect. And then the hardy-dars came. The day of the hardy-dars. Has it also happened to you? I can hear. So then these hardy-dars came. They ate all the koi fish. All the koi fish. So now it was just a pond, not a koi pond anymore. So it was just water and mosquitoes were there. I don't know if that counts. But it was just water in this koi pond. And then we left it like that for years and years and years. And eventually we just closed the koi pond. The thing is, the promise or the purpose was there. There was a possibility of a koi pond. But because we didn't finish what we started, nothing came of it. And just because some hardy-dars came down and took the koi, we didn't try and make a plan to do something else. Sometimes we allow hardy-dars of our lives to take the joy of what God's given us. God's given us a promise. He's giving us purposes, but we allow hardy-dars and criticism and people to take those things away. And instead of, just pushing forward and making a plan and trusting God, we just cover it and move on. God's given you a promise, so finish what you started. Finish what you started. Don't allow hardy-dars to take your joy or your sleep. Why? Because God sees the whole journey, but we just need to take one more step. And as we draw to a close, I want to encourage every one of us, let's stop pretending by being bubble bath Christians. What's a bubble bath Christian? Well, bubble bath has actually no cleaning properties. It looks good. It smells good. You feel fancy with your candles and your bubble bath. It feels good. It's like, wow, I'm so clean. But it has no cleaning properties. So if I just get into the bubble bath and get straight out, I'll feel better. I'll look better. It will seem like I've bathed, but I'm no cleaner than I was before. We need to be Christians that don't just get into the bubble bath, get into church, look clean and act clean and pretend to be clean, but we're actually doing some work. We're actually taking some steps. We're actually moving forward. We're saying, no, I don't want to be a bubble bath Christian. I want to be a Christian that moves and cleans, and I'm going to get down and dirty, but then I'm going to go trust God to do some work in me. That's what I'm talking about. That you've got a step that we need to take. And perhaps you need to take an uncomfortable step or a first step or a last step, whatever step you know you need to take. That you can actually get to the point where I can take that step and trust that God will fill that. So for every person, what is the step you need to take? And by when will we take that step? Because sometimes we say, I'll take the step eventually, but we never get to it. We all need to take that one more step. What is your step? I promise you now, when we start taking those steps and trusting God, incredible things will start happening. You'll start seeing breakthrough in areas you've never seen breakthrough before. You'll start seeing reconciliation. You'll start seeing your life start to change just because I've chosen to take one more step. God sees the whole journey. We just need to focus on the step in front of us. I hope that was helpful, church. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for every person here. Thank you for everyone watching online. We're so grateful that you're a good God, a God that cares about us intimately. That as we take our steps, Lord, I pray for your guidance. I pray for your protection. I pray for your strength. I pray, Lord, that we, as we take that step, that we'd have faith that you would deliver that you would direct us and guide us and lead us. Holy Spirit, that you would fill us. Lord, we need so much wisdom. I pray that we could hear your voice clearly, that as we press into you, you'd give us the rest we need and the strength we need to move forward. I pray for everyone in their next steps, everyone in their one more step, whatever that looks like. Lord, that you would give clarity to every person. Help us, guide us, lead us. And just strengthen us and equip us to be exactly who you've called us to be. Church, just while we're in this attitude of prayer, I want to invite you to take a step today. A real faith step of committing your life to Jesus. And perhaps you've never had that opportunity or never chosen to commit your life fully to Christ. Can I invite you to take that step today? Say, yes, I want to follow Jesus. I want to know this Jesus personally. Well, know this, that Jesus lived 33 years on earth, fully God and fully man, never sinned once. But after 33 years, he chose to sacrifice his life for every one of us. That 3 days later, he rose again. He hung around for 40 days and then ascended back to heaven. But he said, I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm going to send you a helper. And he sent the Holy Spirit, which guides and leads us and convicts us. And that if we choose to follow him, commit our lives to him, that we can spend eternity in heaven with him. John 14 verse 6 says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father except through me. That means that if we want to choose to be with Jesus for eternity in heaven, that we can follow him here on earth. John 3 verse 16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. That's the love of God. That's the benevolence of God. That we can choose to follow him here on earth. Perhaps for some of you, we made a decision to follow Christ a long time ago, even recent, but made steps in the wrong direction, maybe drifted away from God. Maybe you find yourself in that space today. Can I encourage you that we serve a forgiving Father, one that loves, and although there's consequences to everything we do, that he offers forgiveness. So I want to encourage you, don't leave today without choosing to commit your life to Christ, either for the first time or recommit your life to him. I don't want to ask you to stand or come to the front or anything like that. I just love the great honor of praying with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 3 and all eyes closed, no one's looking around. And when I get to 3, I'm going to ask you if you want to commit your life to him or recommit your life to him, that you would raise your hand. I'll acknowledge your hand, we'll pray and we'll close. So if that's you want to take a faith step today. 1, 2, 3, you can raise your hand now. That's it. That's incredible. Keep your hands up. That's amazing. Well done. Well done. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you. I see your hand. That's incredible. Thank you, Lord. Anyone else? I don't want to miss you. If you feel like, yes, don't miss me. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait until next week. Just trust that God can move in you now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I see your hand. Thank you. I see your hand. That's so brave. That's incredible. Well done. You can put your hands down. Father, I thank you for every hand raised, every person that's committed their life to you today. I pray that you'd be with them, that you'd walk with them, that Holy Spirit, even right now, that you'd fill them, take them where they need to be. Lord, that you'd strengthen us, that you'd guide us, that you'd fill us, and just equip us. Everyone pray out loud with me. Dear Lord, thank you for your love. Thank you for your goodness. I choose to follow you. Help me with one more step. Forgive me all my sins. Be my Lord and be my Savior. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's celebrate. Well done.
What an incredible service. We truly hope that it helped. And if you made a decision to follow Jesus, congratulations, we're celebrating with you. We want to encourage you, scan the QR code right now and we can help you on that journey, help you with that decision. What does that mean? What is your next step? We want to encourage you, you only have one next step, and that's fast forward. Fast forward is the on-ramp into church life. It will help you understand your decision, help you understand your next step, help you understand how to get integrated into church life. So sign up for Fast Forward. Once again, you can scan the QR code and we can get you connected through that as well. But remember, we say this each week, each one, reach one. Let's keep connecting, let's keep reaching, let's keep inviting, and we will see you next time.